Good morning. You are watching Jenny's Biblical Messages, and today we are on day 3 of Esther. We are going to go through chapters 5 through 7. Where we ended off yesterday was when Mordecai was fighting for his life, and Esther had asked him and everybody in the town and herself and her attendants to fast for 3 days. So now we start in chapter 5, and the fasting is over. Esther wants to go and talk to the king about this, but by going to the king, she can lose her life. So she is taking her life in her own hands by going to the king and asking him if what he's going to do about her people, the Jews. So we start off in Esther chapter 5, verse 2. The queen walks into King Xerxes' room, part of the palace, and when he saw Queen Esther standing in the court, he was pleased with her and held out to her the gold scepter that was in his hand. So she took the gold scepter, she walks up to him, and he says, "What can I do for you, Queen Esther?" Now remember, she fasted for 3 days because he could have killed her for coming to him. That is how things worked in those days. So if it pleases the king, Esther says, "I would like to have a banquet with you and Haman." And he says, "Of course, when do you want to do it?" "Tomorrow." So she makes this big banquet for them. They have a very good time. Esther does not expose Haman at the first banquet. So after this banquet, so at the end of the banquet, King Xerxes asks, "Esther, please, what can I give you? What can I do for you?" And she says, "I would like the 3 of us to have another banquet tomorrow, and then I will tell you exactly what I want. But today was so wonderful, I just want to keep this going." And he says that's great. Well, Haman leaves, and he is happy. He is on cloud 9. And he goes to his friends and his wife and his sons, and he's just boasting about the money that he has and all the ways the king has honored him and now has elevated him above all the other nobles and officials. And that's not all, Haman added. "I'm the only person Queen Esther invited to accompany the king to a banquet she gave, and she has invited me along with the king tomorrow. But all of this gives me no satisfaction as long as I see that Jew Mordecai sitting at the king's gate." And Mordecai still is just sitting there while Haman is walking back and forth. He's not getting up and bowing to him like everybody else is. His wife and all of his friends said to him, "Have a pole set up reaching to the height of 50 cubits, and ask the king in the morning to have Mordecai impaled on it. Then go with the king to the banquet and enjoy yourself." This suggestion delighted Haman, so he had the pole set up. So now we start chapter 6. Chapter 6 starts off with King Xerxes cannot sleep that night. He is tossing and turning. Something is bothering him, and we know who that was or what was bothering him. It was God. He gets up and he gets the book of Chronicles, which is in the Bible, about his reign. So what they do is they write down all the important things that are going on about each king's reign. And so he has to look at it and read back on it. And he sees the part where it says that it was found recorded where Mordecai had exposed those 2 officers. Remember back on chapter 2 or 3, there was those 2 officers that were plotting on killing the king. And Mordecai was the one that exposed them. And so King Xerxes says, "What have we done to honor Mordecai?" And his attendants say, well, yeah, we haven't done anything. So we're going to start off in verse 6 here, in chapter 6, verse 6. And then all of a sudden, Mordecai's asking his attendants, what happened to Mordecai? What did we do to honor him when he exposed these two officers? And just at the right time, Haman walks in the door. So the king asks him, what should be done for the man that the king delights to honor? Now Haman thought to himself, who is there that the king would rather honor than me? So he answered the king, for the man of the king delights to honor, have him bring a royal war robe the king has worn, and a horse the king has ridden, one with a royal crest placed on its head. Then let the robe and the horse be entrusted to the one of the king's most noble princes. Let them robe the man the king delights to honor and lead him on the horse through the city streets, proclaiming before him, this is what is done for the man the king delights to honor. Verse 10. Go at once, the king commands Haman. Get the robe and the horse and do just as you have suggested for Mordecai, the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Do not neglect anything you have recommended. So Haman got the robe and the horse. He robed Mordecai and led him on the horseback through the city streets, proclaiming before him, this is what is done for the man the king delights to honor. That should be very humbling, shouldn't it be? We've all done something like this, haven't we? We all have thought we were better than anybody else, and that one person likes us more than anybody else because he comes in and confides to us. But really, there's somebody else that's out there that has really made that person feel special and loved. Whereas you or I were just kind of riding the coattails. It's humbling. So afterwards, this is verse 12, chapter 6, verse 12. Afterwards, Mordecai returns to the king's gate, but Haman rushed home. With his head covered in grief, he told his wife and all of his friends everything that had happened to him. His advisors and his wife said to him, since Mordecai, before whom your downfall has started, is of Jewish origin, you cannot stand out against him. You will surely come to ruin. While they were still talking with him, the king's eunuchs arrived and hurried Haman away to the banquet that Esther has prepared. So now we are in chapter 7, and we're going to talk about the second day of the king's banquet. So the king asks Esther again, what is it that you want? What is your request? So we're going to go through verses 3 through 6 here in 7. The Queen Esther answered, if I have found favor with you, your majesty, and if it pleases you, grant me my life. This is my petition. Because she's Jewish, remember, but he doesn't know that. And spare my people. This is my request. For I and my people have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated. If we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept quiet, because no such distress would justly disturbing the king. King Xerxes asked Queen Esther, who is he? Where is he, the man that dared to do such a thing? Esther said, he is an advisory and enemy, this vile Haman. Oh, now the king is outraged. He's outraged. He's been tricked by Haman. So he goes out the garden and he's thinking about what he's going to do next. And while he's in the garden, Haman is begging at Queen Esther's feet. She's just begging to her, please let me live. And she's sitting on this couch, and all of a sudden he falls onto her on the couch while he's begging. He's probably very distraught. And so he just falls over on the couch where she's sitting. And of course, at the very time the king walks in, the king exclaims, "Will he even molest the queen while she is with me in the house?" As soon as the word left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. And one of the eunuchs attending the king said, "A pole reaching the height of 50 cubits stands by Haman's house. He had it set up for Mordecai, who spoke up to help the king." The king said, "Impale him on it." So they impaled Haman on the pole he had set up for Mordecai. And then the king's fury subsided. Drama, right? This is better than any TV show that you can watch. It is. We end on these cliffhangers. What is going to happen now? Haman dies. The king found out about him. The king found out who the real hero in the story is, which is Mordecai. And now, what's going to happen in in chapters 8 through 10? What are we going to find out next? Remember, Queen Esther was born for such a time as this. She was put into the palace to save the Jews. If she wasn't the queen in the palace, none of this would have happened. And the Jews would have died at this time. The Jews, Israel, is God's sacred place. The Jews who started off as the Jews of Jesus' lineage, they're the ones that were from Adam, that they were making a whole new nation. There's a lot that I'm talking about here. Abraham, that God promised Abraham to be the father of all nations. Now we know that turns into us Christians after Jesus comes. So it's anybody that came to Christianity. But that does not mean, still in this day, that God does not love the Jews. And we are to work in harmony with everybody. That's what we're called to do as Christians. All right, everybody, have a blessed day. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about chapters 8 through 10 in Esther.